The breaking point, the massive diplomatic station Unity's edge, floated in the darkness between stars, its crystalline spires catching the light from distant suns. Ambassador Alina Rodriguez stood at the observation deck of the human quarters, watching alien ships arrive for what everyone believed would be routine peace negotiations. Her reflection in the reinforced glass showed a woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and tired eyes that had seen too many diplomatic battles. Behind her, Captain Marcus Chen was reviewing tactical reports on his tablet. The military liaison was younger than Alina, maybe 40, with the precise movements of a career soldier. His dark eyes missed nothing, and right now they were focused on ship deployment patterns that seemed unusual for a peace conference. "Something doesn't feel right about this," Marcus said quietly, not looking up from his data. The reptilian hegemony brought twice as many ships as protocol requires. The insectoid collective has positioned their vessels in attack formations. Even the energy beings have more military assets here than civilian ones. Dr. Sarah Kim looked up from her xenobiology research, pushing her glasses up her nose. She was the youngest member of their team at 32, brilliant but still learning the darker side of galactic politics. Maybe they're just being cautious. After the border incident last month, she suggested hopefully. Alina shook her head. The border incident had been minor by galactic standards. A human colony ship had accidentally crossed into disputed space while fleeing a solar storm. The aliens had made it sound like an invasion attempt, but it was clearly an emergency situation. Still, they had demanded formal negotiations to address what they called human aggression. "No," Alina said firmly. "Marcus is right. This feels like something else entirely." The communication system chimed, and a synthesized voice announced, "All delegates report to Conference Chamber Alpha in 30 minutes. Preliminary statements will begin shortly." Alina straightened her formal diplomatic robes, a deep blue that represented Earth's oceans. She had worn these same robes to dozens of negotiations over her 20-year career. But today they felt heavier somehow. The trio made their way through the station's corridors, passing alien delegates from across the galaxy. The architecture of Unity's edge was neutral by design, with smooth curves and soft lighting that didn't favor any particular species' aesthetic preferences. But Alina noticed that human personnel were conspicuously absent from the usual positions. Normally, human engineers maintained key systems throughout the station, and human medics staffed the emergency centers. Today, she saw only aliens. Conference Chamber Alpha was enormous, with seating arranged in concentric circles around a central speaking platform. The ceiling showed a holographic display of local space, with the positions of all attending vessels clearly marked. Alina took her assigned seat between the Aquatic Federation's representative and an empty chair marked for the Synthetic Collective, who had apparently not bothered to attend. Chancellor Vextar of the reptilian hegemony rose first, his massive frame commanding attention. The reptilian being stood nearly 8 feet tall, with scales that shifted from green to bronze depending on his mood. Right now, they were dark bronze, which Alina knew indicated confidence bordering on arrogance. "Esteemed delegates," began, his voice carrying easily through the chamber's acoustic systems. "We gather today to address the growing threat posed by human expansion and militarism. Recent events have shown that humanity cannot be trusted to respect established boundaries or follow basic galactic law." Alina felt her stomach drop. This wasn't the tone of someone seeking peaceful resolution. This was the voice of someone reading prepared accusations. Furthermore, Vexter continued, "Intelligence reports indicate that humans have been secretly developing weapons. technology in violation of the Galactic Non-Proliferation Treaty. Their research into antimatter warheads and quantum disruption fields represents a clear and present danger to all peaceful species. The accusations were completely false. Alina knew every aspect of human weapons research, and nothing they were developing violated any existing treaties. The antimatter research was focused on propulsion systems, and the quantum work was theoretical physics with no military applications. Prime Conductor Zephyr spoke next, his energy-based form crackling with barely contained power. The energy beings communicated through controlled electromagnetic pulses that were translated into audible speech. "The evidence is overwhelming," Zephyr stated with electronic precision. "Humanity's pattern of behavior indicates aggressive expansion, technological hoarding, and preparation for offensive military action against established galactic powers." Dr. Sarah Kim leaned forward in her seat, her scientific mind rejecting the distorted data being presented. But Alina placed a gentle hand on her arm, warning her to remain calm. Something much larger was happening here. Hive Mother Clyte H spoke with the collective voice of billions of insectoid minds. The collective has analyzed human behavior patterns across 847 different scenarios. Probability calculations indicate a 94.7% chance that humans will initiate hostile action within the next solar cycle unless preventive measures are taken. Alina realized with growing horror that this was a coordinated attack. The three most powerful alien factions had worked together to build a case against humanity based on lies, speculation, and twisted interpretations of routine human activities. Chancellor Vextar returned to the speaking platform, his scales now gleaming with satisfaction. "Therefore, the assembled powers of the galaxy present the following resolution for immediate implementation. First, all human colonies beyond the Sol system must be evacuated within 6 months. Second, all human military vessels must be recalled to Earth space and placed under joint alien supervision. Third, all human research into advanced technologies must be conducted under galactic oversight to ensure compliance with safety protocols." The chamber fell silent as the full scope of the demands became clear. They weren't asking for peace negotiations. They were demanding humanity's complete surrender and subjugation. Fourth, Vextar continued, clearly enjoying his moment of triumph. Earth itself will accept a permanent garrison of alien peacekeepers to monitor human activities and prevent future aggressive actions. These terms are non-negotiable and must be accepted within 72 hours. Alina felt something cold settle in her chest. In her 20 years of diplomatic service, she had seen many difficult negotiations, but never anything like this. The aliens had clearly decided that humans were too dangerous to be allowed independence, and they were using manufactured evidence to justify what amounted to the conquest of humanity. She looked around the chamber, searching for any sign of support from other species. The Aquatic Federation representative avoided her gaze. The Silicon-based Confederacy's delegate was focused intently on his datapad. Even species that had traditionally been friendly to humans seemed unwilling to challenge the three major powers. Captain Marcus Chen was taking careful notes, his military training helping him maintain composure even as he recorded what amounted to an ultimatum for war. Dr. Sarah Kim looked shocked and frightened, her scientific worldview struggling to process the deliberate distortion of facts she was witnessing. Prime Conductor Zephyr spoke again, his electromagnetic field pulsing with what Alina had learned was satisfaction among his species. The evidence clearly shows that humans pose an existential threat to galactic peace. Their rapid technological development, aggressive expansion patterns, and military capabilities make them too dangerous to remain unsupervised. Alina stood slowly, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. Every eye, sensor, and detection device in the chamber focused on her as she prepared to respond to the ultimatum that would change everything. "The Terran Federation," she said, clearly, her voice carrying easily through the chamber's acoustics, "categorically rejects these false accusations and fabricated evidence." A murmur ran through the assembled delegates, but Alina continued without pause. "For 3 centuries, humanity has participated in galactic civilization as a peaceful and contributing member. We have shared our medical knowledge freely, saving billions of alien lives from diseases and injuries. Our engineers have designed better systems for dozens of worlds. Our scientists have made breakthrough discoveries that have benefited every species in this chamber." Chancellor Vextar's scales darkened with annoyance. "Your past contributions do not excuse your current aggressive behavior," he interrupted. "What? Aggressive behavior?" Alina asked pointedly. "Our colony ship that briefly entered disputed space while fleeing a solar storm. Our research into technologies that every other species is also developing. Our military vessels that patrol the same routes they have used for decades." She gestured toward the holographic display showing ship positions. "You speak of human militarism while bringing 3 times the normal military escort to a peace conference. You accuse us of threatening behavior while presenting ultimatums that amount to the complete subjugation of our species." Dr. Sarah Kim found her voice and spoke from her seat. "The scientific data being presented is deliberately distorted. I can provide accurate statistics that completely contradict these claims." Silence. Hive Mother Clyde commanded with the voice of billions. "The collective's analysis is beyond dispute. Human probability matrices show clear, aggressive tendencies." Alina felt her diplomatic patience finally reach its limit. For 3 centuries, humans had tried to be good galactic citizens. They had followed the rules, participated in joint ventures, and contributed far more to galactic civilization than they had taken. And this was their reward: manufactured accusations and demands for surrender. "Very well," Alina said, her voice cutting through the noise in the chamber. "If the assembled powers of the galaxy have decided that humanity is too dangerous to participate as an equal partner, then we will no longer burden you with our presence." She reached into her diplomatic case and pulled out a sealed document that she had hoped never to use. Breaking the seal, she unfolded the papers and read in a clear voice that carried to every corner of the chamber. "By the authority vested in me by the Terran Federation Council and the United Earth Government, I hereby announce humanity's immediate and permanent withdrawal from all galactic treaties, agreements, and cooperative ventures." The silence that followed was deafening. For a moment, not a single being in the chamber moved or spoke. Furthermore, Alina continued, "All human personnel will be recalled from alien territories within 30 days. All joint research projects are terminated immediately. All humanitarian aid and medical assistance programs are discontinued. All trade agreements are void as of this moment." Chancellor Vextar scales shifted rapidly through different colors as he processed what he was hearing. "You cannot simply withdraw from galactic civilization," he protested. "There are procedures, protocols that you have just demonstrated mean nothing when it suits your purposes." Alina replied coldly, "You have made it clear that humanity is not welcome as an equal partner. We will not remain where we are not wanted." She turned to Marcus and Sarah. Gather our materials. We're leaving. As the three humans began collecting their belongings, chaos erupted in the chamber. Delegates who had sat quietly while humanity was threatened suddenly began shouting in dozens of languages. The translation systems struggled to keep up with the volume of communication. Wait. Prime Conductor Zephes called out, his electromagnetic field fluctuating wildly. This is not what we intended. Surely we can reach some accommodation. Alina stopped at the chamber exit and turned back to face the assembled delegates. 3 centuries ago, humanity was invited to join galactic civilization. We accepted that invitation eagerly and tried our best to be worthy partners. Today, you have shown us that we were never truly welcome. She looked directly at Chancellor Vextar, whose scales had now turned a pale grey that Alina recognized as fear. You wanted to know what humanity would do when cornered and threatened, she said quietly. Now you'll find out. The 3 humans left the chamber, their footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Behind them, the greatest powers in the galaxy began to realize what they had just lost. As their shuttle prepared to depart Unity's edge, Alina looked back at the massive station. One last time. Somewhere in its diplomatic archives were 3 centuries of human contributions to galactic civilization. Medical breakthroughs that had saved billions of lives. Engineering innovations that had made space travel safer for everyone. Scientific discoveries that had advanced the knowledge of every species. All of that was about to disappear. Captain Marcus Chen started the shuttle's engines, while Dr. Sarah Kim sent encrypted messages to every human facility in alien space. The recall order would go out within hours, and every human scientist, engineer, doctor, and teacher would begin the journey home. Are we really doing this? Sarah asked quietly as Earth grew larger in their view screen. Alina nodded grimly. They wanted to treat us as a threat rather than an ally. Now they'll learn the difference between having humans as partners and having them as strangers. The shuttle entered Earth's atmosphere just as the first emergency sessions were being called on alien worlds across the galaxy. Within hours, every major government would know that humanity had withdrawn from galactic civilization. What they didn't yet understand was what that withdrawal would actually cost them. The reckoning 3 months. After humanity's withdrawal from galactic civilization, the true consequences began to reveal themselves across the galaxy. What had started as isolated system failures had cascaded into a crisis that threatened the very foundation of interstellar society. On the reptilian hegemony capital world of Dratmore, Chancellor Vextar stood in his private chambers, overlooking the sprawling capital city. His scales had remained a sickly grey color for weeks now, reflecting the constant stress and growing fear that had consumed him since the human withdrawal. Through the massive windows, he could see the lights of the city flickering irregularly as power grid failures became more frequent. Status report. He commanded his chief administrator, a smaller reptilian named Sectar, who clutched a datapad. With trembling claws, the situation continues to deteriorate, Chancellor Sectar reported nervously. The agricultural processes that humans designed for our outer colonies have failed completely. 3 worlds are now facing famine conditions. The water purification systems on 6 more planets require maintenance procedures that only human engineers understood. Vextar's tail lashed in frustration. When the humans had first introduced their advanced life support technologies, the reptilian hegemony had embraced them eagerly. The systems were incredibly efficient, allowing reptilian colonies to thrive on worlds that would otherwise be barely habitable. But in their arrogance, they had never bothered to learn how the systems actually worked. What about our own engineers? Vexstar demanded. They are trying, Chancellor, but the technology is beyond our current understanding. The humans designed these systems with built-in redundancies and self-repair mechanisms that we cannot replicate. Our attempts to maintain them have only made the failures worse. The situation was even more dire in the territories controlled by the energy beings. Prime Conductor Zephyrs existed as a coherent electromagnetic field within a specially designed containment chamber aboard the massive station that served as his species' mobile capital. But the chamber was failing, and with it, his ability to maintain physical form. Report on containment system status, Zephyrs requested, his electronic voice crackling with interference that hadn't been present before the human withdrawal. Subconductor Flux responded with barely controlled panic in his electromagnetic patterns. Primary containment is operating at 67% efficiency and declining. The quantum stabilizers that humans installed are experiencing cascade failures. We estimate complete containment collapse within 42 solar cycles. The implications were terrifying. Without proper containment, the energy beings would dissipate back into random electromagnetic radiation, effectively dying. The humans had provided the advanced quantum technology that allowed them to maintain coherent consciousness and interact with matter-based species. Now that technology was failing, and the energy beings lacked the knowledge to repair it. Have we received any response to our diplomatic overtures to Earth? Zephyrs asked, though he already knew the answer. Negative, Prime Conductor. All human communication channels remain closed. Their automated systems respond only with a message stating that Earth does not currently maintain diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council. Meanwhile, on the insectoid homeworld of Hive Prime, billions of individual insects worked frantically to address their own growing crisis. Hive Mother Clythe coordinated the efforts of her children through pheromone commands and neural links. But even the collective intelligence of the swarm couldn't solve their problems. The insectoid collective had relied heavily on human medical expertise to combat the various plagues and genetic disorders that threatened their rapidly reproducing population. Human doctors had developed treatments for 17 different diseases that would otherwise decimate insectoid colonies. But now, with the human medical teams gone, new outbreaks were spreading unchecked. Worker drone Zixth brought disturbing reports from the outer colonies. Hive Mother, the spore plague has returned to the mining worlds. Without human antifungal treatments, we estimate 60% mortality within one breeding cycle. Clyde H felt the collective anxiety of billions of minds sharing her consciousness. The spore plague had nearly destroyed their civilization centuries ago, before human biochemists had developed the treatments that kept it in check. Now, watching her children die from diseases that humans had once cured with simple medications, she began to understand the true scope of what they had lost. But the real catastrophe was yet to come. Deep in the void between galaxies, ancient monitoring stations detected energy signatures that hadn't been seen for over 1,000 years. The sensors, many of them designed and maintained by human technicians, began transmitting urgent warnings to every major civilization, but with human personnel no longer operating the communication networks, many of the warnings went undelivered or misunderstood. Admiral Sarah Reynolds commanded the human Deep Space Monitoring Station, Aurora's watch from her position at the edge of the galaxy. She was a veteran officer with 30 years of experience, tracking potential threats from the intergalactic void. Her crew of specialists maintained the most advanced sensor arrays in known space, capable of detecting energy signatures across impossible distances. Admiral, called Lieutenant Commander James Park from his sensor station. "We're picking up massive energy readings from the Andromeda vector, multiple contacts closing on our galaxy at near light speed." Sarah felt her blood turn cold. She recognized the energy signatures from historical records and ancient warnings passed down through generations of human deep space personnel. "Confirm contact classification, Commander Park." "Confirmed, Admiral. The signatures match historical records for Devourer-class vessels. We're looking at a full harvester fleet, estimated arrival in 18 months. The Devourers were an ancient threat from outside the galaxy, creatures of pure hunger that consumed entire worlds before moving on to the next system. They had last been seen over 1,000 years ago, driven back by the combined fleets of every spacefaring species in the galaxy. But that victory had required unprecedented cooperation and tactical coordination. "Open a priority channel to Galactic Defense Command," Sarah ordered. Her communications officer looked up with confusion. "Admiral, we withdrew from the Galactic Defense Network 3 months ago. We no longer have access to their command frequencies." Sarah realized with growing horror that humanity's withdrawal meant they could no longer warn the other species about the approaching threat. The aliens would have to detect the Devourers on their own, using sensor networks that were already failing without human maintenance. "Send the data to Earth Command," she decided. "Let them decide how to handle this." Meanwhile, on Earth, President David Martinez was receiving increasingly desperate messages from alien governments across the galaxy. His advisors had compiled reports showing the cascade of failures affecting every major alien civilization, but the president remained unmoved by their pleas for help. "They wanted us gone," President Martinez said firmly during an emergency cabinet meeting. "They accused us of being too dangerous, too aggressive. Now they can handle their problems without us." Secretary of Defense Lisa Park disagreed. "Sir, we're receiving reports that some kind of ancient threat is approaching from outside the galaxy. This might be bigger than just their infrastructure failures." General Robert Ars, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, spread out tactical displays showing human military positions. "Our deep space monitors are detecting massive energy signatures moving toward galactic core worlds. If this is what I think it is, the aliens are going to need every ship they can get." President Martinez studied the data with growing concern. The energy readings matched historical records of the Devourer invasion from a millennium ago. If those creatures were returning, it would threaten every living world in the galaxy, including Earth. "What are our defensive capabilities?" he asked. "Substantial and improving," General Hayes replied. "Our withdrawal from alien territories allowed us to consolidate our forces and accelerate our military research programs. We've developed new weapons, systems, and defensive technologies that give us significant advantages. But fighting the Devourers alone would be extremely costly." The president looked out the window at the peaceful Earth landscape, thinking about the impossible decision he faced. Humanity could probably survive a Devourer invasion, but the cost would be enormous. And while the aliens had treated them terribly, millions of innocent beings would die if Earth did nothing. "Sir," his chief of staff interrupted, "we're receiving an urgent transmission from the Galactic Council. They're requesting immediate emergency negotiations. On Unity's edge, the same diplomatic station where humanity had been threatened 3 months earlier, emergency sessions had been running continuously for weeks. The once proud alien powers now faced the reality of their situation without human support. Chancellor Vextar looked exhausted, his scales a dull grey that reflected the desperate state of his civilization. The reptilian hegemony is prepared to make substantial concessions to secure human assistance. He announced to the emergency assembly. Prime Conductor Zephyrs flickered weakly in his failing containment chamber. The Energy Collective agrees to any terms necessary for human expertise in quantum containment technology. Hive Mother Clyke spoke with the voice of billions, but for the first time, her collective consciousness sounded uncertain and afraid. The Insectoid Collective requires human medical knowledge to prevent complete civilization collapse, but their immediate crises paled in comparison to the news that had just reached the station. A junior technician, one of the few alien personnel capable of operating the deep space sensors, had finally managed to detect the approaching Devourer fleet. Estimated arrival in 17 months, the technician reported to the stunned assembly. Fleet composition suggests a full harvester invasion, targeting core galactic worlds. The chamber fell silent as the full implications became clear. The last time the Devourers had invaded, victory had required the combined military might of every spacefaring species, coordinated by human tactical expertise. Now, with their fleets weakened and their coordination capabilities destroyed, the aliens faced annihilation. "We need the humans," Chancellor Vextar admitted quietly, his pride finally broken. "But will they help us?" Prime Conductor Zephyrs asked, his electromagnetic field barely stable enough to maintain coherence. The answer came in the form of a single, human vessel approaching Unity's edge under diplomatic immunity flags. Aboard the ship, Ambassador Elena. Rodriguez prepared for what might be the most important negotiation in galactic history. She had changed significantly in the 3 months since humanity's withdrawal. The diplomatic robes were gone, replaced by a practical military-style uniform that reflected humanity's new position in the galaxy. Her silver hair was tied back severely, and her eyes showed the hard wisdom of someone who had learned that kindness was often mistaken for weakness. Captain Marcus Chen accompanied her again, but now he wore the insignia of an admiral. Promoted after humanity's military consolidation, Dr. Sarah Kim had been replaced by General Patricia Stone, a tough military scientist who specialized in exotic weapon systems. As their shuttle docked with Unity's edge, Alina reviewed the terms that Earth was prepared to offer. They were harsh but fair, reflecting humanity's new understanding of their true value in galactic civilization. "Remember," she said to her companions, "we're not here to save them from their own stupidity. We're here to negotiate a partnership between equals. Nothing less will be acceptable." The chamber where Alina had once been threatened now welcomed her with desperate hope. The alien leaders who had once demanded humanity's surrender now sat in positions of supplication, their civilizations crumbling without human expertise. Alina took her place at the central speaking platform, no longer as a representative begging for peaceful coexistence, but as the voice of a species that had learned its own worth. The Terran Federation is prepared to discuss limited cooperation agreements, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. However, our terms reflect the new reality of our relationship. She activated a holographic display showing human defensive positions and capabilities. The aliens were shocked to see how much human military capacity had grown during their 3-month isolation. First, any cooperation will be as equal partners, not as subordinates. Second, all previous accusations against humanity must be formally retracted and apologized for. Third, humans will have autonomous authority over any joint operations, including the defense against the approaching Devourer fleet. Chancellor Vextar's scales shifted through multiple colors as he processed the reversal of their positions. And if we refuse these terms, Elena's expression remained neutral, but her words carried the weight of absolute certainty. Then you face the devourers alone, while your civilizations collapse from infrastructure failures. Earth will defend itself and leave the rest of the galaxy to its fate. The silence that followed was filled with the weight of civilizations hanging in the balance. The aliens had learned, too late, the difference between having humans as allies and having them as strangers. The age of human subservience was over. The age of human leadership was about to begin.